Alright, this video is going to explain to you how to write the names and the formulas of covalent compounds. On the left-hand side, I have the information for naming covalent compounds. And it says over there that you're going to use prefixes on every atom in the compound except if there's one of the first element. And you'll see that down here in just a minute with some of my examples. That means that you're going to have to memorize all of these prefixes. Most of them you should be familiar with, but it comes down to just simply knowing them. The second thing that you need to know is that the last element ends in IDE. So if I do a couple of examples of this, here's the first one. It says H2S. So we're going to use prefixes. There's 2 hydrogens. The prefix for 2 is di. So I'm going to write down dihydrogen. I'm not changing the ending of that to IDE because it's not the last element. And then I'm going to write down this one. There's 1 sulfur, so I'm going to write monosulfide. I changed the ending of sulfur to "ide" and I put the prefix mono because there's 1 of them. I did use mono. I'm not telling you never use mono, but you don't use it if it's the first element. Here's an example of that. This one has 1 nitrogen, but I'm not going to write down mononitrogen. I'm just simply going to write nitrogen. I don't change the ending, I just name the element. There's 3 hydrogens, so I need to use the prefix tri, and then hydrogen is going to become hydride. Nitrogen trihydride. Here's another one. You're familiar with this one? CO2. There's 1 carbon, but it's not called monocarbon. It's just simply carbon. There's 2 oxygen, so that's di, and oxygen becomes oxide. We change the endings just like we did for the ionic compounds, but we have to add the prefixes to them. Something else that's worth noting if you want to really do well at this is that if you have any of the words right here that combine with oxygen, any of the words, the prefixes that end in A or O, like if you're going to put deca with oxygen, you drop the A, and it becomes decoxide. Octa with oxygen would become octoxide. Tetra, it's kind of a funny one, would become tetroxide. It just makes it a little bit easier to say. So you would drop the A or the O with oxide. And an example of that would be, if I switch to this, another example would be carbon monoxide. I don't have 2 O's. It's not monooxide, or, it's not got 2 O's in there. I guess you could pronounce it differently too, but it's just simply carbon monoxide. On the other side, writing the formulas is actually even easier because you just use the prefixes to write it out. So diarsenic, that tells me that it's arsenic, which is AS. Di means 2. Pent oxide, well, that's O. Pent means 5. Sulfur hexabromide. There's no prefix in front of sulfur, so I just write S. That means there's 1 of them. Bromide is BR, and hexa means 6. Easy peasy.